3rd of May 2021, here you are back in Counterspin. Now, before I get to my guest, Liz Lambert, a lawyer with information you are going to want to hear, I want to address something from the previous show. Now, in one of my normal tangents that I went away on, I talked about sex education at schools, and as opposed to just teaching children the mechanics of having a baby or the reproductive system, that they should also be taught about the stress, the hormonal changes, and everything else related to children. And I specifically mentioned females needing to be very careful because they're the only ones really who could come home pregnant and, expect to be a solo mother if it went that way. Now, I got told it was a bit sexist because obviously I didn't include males and say that males have a responsibility for that as well. It's obvious they do. So that's not in dispute. But in terms of me highlighting specifically the females, I don't take that back. And I stand by everything I said. So we'll leave that there. Moving right along. I see there's a couple of the usual cretins in the leftosphere. That's a good word there. That is taking pot shots at anyone who dares to defy the Labour government or even any government narrative that they try to push down your throat. To them I say, who cares? We're not here to please you. We're here to put the truth out. I said before, common sense, logic and reason is what we are. We're not left, right or centre. So we'll move on to the next one. Everyone knows what's happening in this country right now with all the passing of the draconian legislation. There's a massive land grab on that's specifically at this time affecting our farming and agricultural sectors. That is something that must come to an end. We are going to show you, the farmers, the agricultural sector, the orchardists, etc., exactly how you can put a stop to that. As I said, as we go through the show, this is one you're not going to miss. I don't care who you are, what you are. I don't even care if you're a lefty. Well, you're a bit of a nut, but this is for you as well. This will help you and your family. We don't discriminate here. We just give facts and evidence. We're right, you're wrong. That's just how it goes. So, my guest, Liz Lambert, a lawyer, has a very interesting background. She went into law a little later in life than most people, so she had life experience, which is very important. You didn't just go from transition from one school to another where you have no practical experience of people, personalities, emotions, and all the other stuff that goes with it. I want to... But first of all, before we get to Liz, I want you to watch something and actually ask yourself, what the hell happened to us? Take a look.
1, 2, 3, 4. Shut your mouth, get in line, just behave or pay the fine. They're pulling on your backbone and taking out your spine. They want you weak, don't speak, don't question, don't think. Keep staring at your smartphone, get dumber every week. Now give up your freedom and shush. Oh Jesus, what happened to us? Church, kill your faith, judge the skin and learn to hate. Make yourself the enemy, but call yourself a saint. Learn the rules, be a fool. Remove your kid from school and apologize for everything. Apologize for you. Now give the TV all of your trust. Oh Jesus, what happened to us? Mark, Jack, Bill, Joe, they'll tell you what you need to know. They'll give you your permissions and tell you where to go. Lights, camera, action, edit. We're so pathetic. You believe it cause you watched it. You believe it cause they said it. Now everybody stay home and rust. Oh Jesus, what happened to us? We used to stand and fight. So shut your mouth, get in line, just behave or pay the fine. They're pulling on your backbone and taking out your spine. They want you weak, don't speak, don't question, don't think. Keep staring at your smartphone, get dumber every week. Don't nobody put up a fuss. Oh Jesus, what happened to us? Oh Jesus, Jesus, what happened to us?
Welcome back to Counterspin with my guest, Liz Lambert. Welcome, Liz.
Thanks, Kelvin.
We're going to bring some shocking information here. It's going to make people think, why didn't we think of that? How can we do that? But I would be remiss if I didn't say the hat brought to you by G Fashion. If you can read that, it says, take down the CCP, which is what we're all about here. Because they got their fingers in everything, Liz.
They do.
I tell you. If they were weeds, they would have some garden shears out.
We would.
Okay. Now, if you could just illustrate for people or demonstrate who you are. I mean, I know who you are, but not many people do. Who you are, how you got into law, and even how we met.
Okay.
That would be great.
Well, I didn't get into law until I was 40, I think. By that time, I'd had 3 children, and I'd travelled to different countries in the world, experienced different sorts of systems. I lived in Japan for about 3 years. I lived in Jersey and the Channel Islands for about 3 years.
Nice.
I've lived in Australia, Sydney, and I'd taken a good break to have my eldest child, and when she was 2.5, I decided to go to night school at Waiheke, where I was living, and not night school, just a 6th form certificate, and I did what was called legal system, and I discovered I loved law. I loved studying law. Long story short, I ended up doing 10 years at University of Auckland. I did started off doing a postgraduate diploma in labour studies, which is a course that was set up between the unions and the university because I wanted to be a union lawyer or a union organiser. In actual fact, I didn't think about being a union lawyer until later in the case. I ended up finding out I was a very keen student and did 50 papers in the end of all 50. Sorts of subjects. Loved history, etc., etc. But a little bit down the line, I was advised, look, you could do a conjoint degree and get where you want to go in the quickest possible time. So my degree is politics and law. So that's where I got to in terms of my political studies. Then I went to work for the Service and Food Workers Union. Once I'd been admitted to the bar, I had a job with them for a couple of years. Don't like working in an office at all, whether it's a union office or any other office. My time was divided somewhat equally between union organising and running cases, usually personal grievance cases.
The reason I asked you to give a bit of your background is because I want to impress on people that you're not an idiot. You do actually have an understanding of different things. You've had a life. You've experienced, like you say, a whole lot of different aspects of systems and how they relate to people. And that, as the show goes on, will become a critical point that we'll be pointing out. Now, if you tell them how you were unfortunate enough to meet myself.
Okay, so then fast forward on from about 2003, I think it was, I left the union, and I went into business with my partner at the time, and we had a small, I guess you call, landlording business. We bought up a whole lot of we followed Robert Kiyosaki and bought up a whole lot of properties. We had 18 at one stage. And when the relationship ended, that all fell to pieces, as it does when relationships end. You lose all your money and your happiness and everything. But anyway, so I got involved after that a lot with, what would you call it, the sovereignty movement, especially from the Maori point of view.
Yeah.
Because they're really the people who are talking about sovereignty.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah, you were there too. And I guess that we probably sort of knew of each other, but it didn't actually, we didn't actually...
There's no gravitation at that time because we were on different paths, different aspects. Yeah.
We knew different people, we were doing different things. But during lockdown, I got a call from you and you said to me, can you put together a case that I will present to the court to say to this government, isn't this a breach of our human rights? Is there a human rights breach here?
Correct.
And we worked on that for a while, and we were going quite well on that. And then it became more and more clear to me that that in actual fact, what we would call that public law.
Yeah.
And it tends to be carried out in the High Court. And I have now come to the conclusion that in actual fact what we need to use against this system is the common law.
Exactly.
Or land law.
Yeah.
Law of the land.
That's a good point. Because the system, I try to tell people this ad nauseum. Like I just constantly say it to people. This system is rigged. It's been honed over centuries to meet any challenge against it. It doesn't matter which angle you come in on, especially if you're trying to use their stuff against them. It's like they have the playbook and they have what I call a Rule 13, which states that you can't see, of course, and it states it doesn't matter how well you know the other 12 rules. We'll change it to suit when we damn well please. As you see with retrospective legislation being passed, as you see with Jacinda doing all these, and like I said, why I pick on Jacinda is because she's leading the government at the moment. Yes. If it was Keyback leading the government, I'd be picking on him. Same system, two heads of the same bird type thing. Funny looking bird, but you know what I mean. So it doesn't matter which way we attack this. And because everyone's fragmented, which we'll get into shortly, we're not making dents. It's like wrapping up paper, wetting it, throwing it in a tank. We're just not penetrating. But we believe that we have the silver bullet for this werewolf. And we will be back soon to tell people more about that. But first, of course, you'll give a little bit of a quick rundown on basically legal versus lawful and, things like that.
Yes.
Which a lot of people give seminars on and all that sort of thing. But honestly, I haven't been to one seminar yet where people know what the hell they're talking about. They always miss vital aspects, which you will point out.
And they charge an awful lot of money for it.
They do. They do indeed.
So people get committed to it and they can't see that doing the same thing over and over and over again, that doesn't work. Yeah, and it doesn't work, but they say, but it costs so much money, it must.
Yeah, exactly. But we're about to give the answer for free.
We are.
Exactly. I mean, some of those seminars that are held give good background information and put people on a good path of learning. But in order to complete, that's where we get to where we're going shortly. So, what else do you think you have in your life that's lent the ability to see things a little more clearly than just beyond the bar, if that makes sense?
Well, the fact that I come from Huntly.
Huntly.
I'm the original coal miner's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we have a tradition of solidarity within those communities.
Sounds a bit communist.
It does, but I'll tell you what, the communists were absolutely on the outer in the union movement. Yeah. Anybody who tries to tell you these days that communism and the union movement are the same thing is telling you a lie.
Yeah.
But the union movements have been used very much so by both communism and Nazism.
Yeah. Well, let's face it. I mean, the unions these days, because when I was growing up, when we used to watch unions going out on strike all the time, the union organisers, they were paid very well.
Yes, they
Were
were.
paid regardless of whether you lost your job or not. You couldn't feed your family. It doesn't matter. They just kept extending strikes and all that sort of thing. And usually the negotiation they didn't lend itself to back pay or anything or bring you any better. You know, we've got you 1%, but from the money you've lost, it took that long to make it back up. And then they're arguing again and out on strike. Yeah, I used to not see the sense in that either.
That was one of the reasons I left.
Yeah.
I worked in the sector called aged care, and I organised the aged care workers. That was one of my jobs, to go out and get union members, but I'd also get involved in PGs, personal grievances. But I'd also get involved in my lawyer role with negotiating collective contracts. And we were negotiating increases of 20, 30. At the highest amount we would were trying to negotiate with MetLife Care was 50 cents an hour. Now, I organised those workers into a one-day strike, the first ever in that industry. And I thought about it later, and I thought those women, because they were all women, are going to have to work 6 months at their increase of 30 cents an hour to make up for the pay they lost on that day. And at that stage, I put the numbers together and thought, to hell with this. Yeah. This is not the way that workers are going to get ahead.
Yeah.
Because, striking is illegal in this country too. You actually even have to go, through a whole legal process
just to get it done.
To get it done.
Which is ridiculous. Why should you have to kowtow to somebody just to get
for your right to withdraw your labour? Exactly.
And that's completely bunkum, which shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm personally, I'm excited about the show. We've been building that up and all that sort of thing, and it's something that's close to my heart. That's why, I'm going to let you do most of the talking, because most people wouldn't believe me, because I'm not a lawyer per se or anything like that. I'm one of those bush ones. I read a book once. Suddenly, I'm an expert.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the whole the legislation as it's shaped at the moment makes commodities of people. You have to basically be something other than yourself. I mean, what's the whole thing about representation? I mean, couldn't you just front up? I mean, if someone's going to talk, they front up as, hey, I'm here, you're there, let's talk. Why do you need a rep to, even if you're doing it yourself, represent yourself as what?
Because they've got these strange, you think that the people who run these seminars and talk about straw men, you think they're strange? The legal system itself builds all of that fantasy.
And of
the
course,
legal system
we will go over that too.
Is a legal fiction.
Yeah, exactly. It's a legal fiction. And what drives it?
Money.
And it's just like the banking system. We know it's completely corrupt. It's all insolvent. Every bank's trading insolvent. We'll have a show on that and we'll absolutely prove that. But the legal system's the same thing. The only thing that keeps it going is people's faith that it actually works.
Well, we better not let people get too down, because we're going to tell them how we're going to bring them both down.
Exactly. And like I said before, we're about to bring Jacinda's House of Cards, because she's leading the government, down around their ears. So what we'll do is we'll just wrap this up. We'll play a little clip that sort of is a lot like human mentality and how the few can control the many.
Oh.
So
right.
we will take a look at that right now. I think you'll love this.
Once upon a time, there were 100 million people. They had different interests, different beliefs, different occupations, but for the most part, they got along pretty well. Then one day, a gang of a few hundred people showed up. Need to zoom in some more to see them. I know they're there somewhere. Zoom in. There they are. And this gang of a few hundred said to the throng of 100 million, "From now on, you all have to give us a cut of everything you earn."
This is an accurate graphical comparison between the number of American taxpayers and the number of U.S. congressmen.
And the throng said, "Gosh, do we have to give you a cut of what we earn?" And the gang of a few hundred said, "Yes, you have to." And the throng said, "Well, okay, I guess we have to." And one little troublemaker asked, "What if we don't?" The gang of a few hundred didn't like this and said, "If you do not comply, we shall unleash upon you our legions of enforcers." And the throng cried, "Oh no, please don't. We will comply, we will pay."
This is an accurate graphical comparison between the number of American taxpayers and the total number of IRS employees.
Time went by, and the gang of a few hundred said, "Now we want more of what you earn." And this kept happening over and over again, until eventually some of the throng were paying almost half of what they earned to the gang. Whenever the gang demanded more, the throng would say, "Golly, we're already having a tough time. Do we really need to give you even more?" And the gang always said, "Yes, you must, or we shall unleash our legion of enforcers." Now the gang of a few hundred was getting trillions of dollars every year, spending it on wars and pyramid schemes, giving away goodies to their friends, buying influence, and doing lots of other things. And some of the throng started saying, "We don't really like the war you're waging with the money we give you. Do we really have to be paying for that?" And the gang said, "Yes, we demand it. Don't make us send out our legion of enforcers." And some of the throng said, "You're taking our money and giving it to huge corporations and giant banks, and some people who just don't want to work. A lot of these things we don't like." And the gang said, "We don't care. We will decide how to spend it. You just do as you're told, or else." And the throng said, "Okay, I guess we have to." But eventually the throng got so fed up, so angry, that they took a drastic step. One day they said to the gang, "We don't like what you're doing. We want a new gang." And after pouring a huge amount of time and money into the effort, they replaced the gang with a new gang. Then the throng pleaded with the new gang, "Now, at long last, can we keep our own money, or at least keep more of it?" And the new gang said, "Sorry, but after much discussion, we've decided that you can't. You have to keep giving us what you've been giving, in fact, a little bit more than before." The throng was distraught and said, "This is dreadful. But after all, what choice do we have? I mean, they say we must comply, and they have that scary legion of enforcers. We're powerless against them. We'd better just do as we're told." So they did as they were told, got poorer and poorer, and lived miserably ever after. But after all, what else could they have done? What power could this throng possibly have compared to this gang of a few hundred and their enforcers? What chance would this thing have against this thing? How could these 100 million people ever hope to successfully resist the awesome power of this tiny little dot? In case anyone missed this, let's review. Here's them. Here are their enforcers. Here's us. Them, us. Them, us. Does anything about this seem just a little strange to you? Are you perhaps wondering, why does the throng need the permission of the dot to do anything? Why do these people feel the need to ask this tiny little dot if they can keep more of what they earn? Why would they spend year after year literally begging for lower taxes from this little dot? Is this dot just really darn intimidating? Is it very persuasive in its reasoning? To be blunt, why would this throng give a rodent's backside what this tiny little dot wanted? The fact that this tiny dot has the gall to issue such demands to such a throng is pretty startling in and of itself. But what is far more amazing is that the throng obeys this minuscule little parasitic gang of control freaks. What could possibly explain this? Let's ask the dot. This is how it works. When we, the dot, take your money and spend it on things you don't like, we're representing you. In fact, though you're not allowed to actually keep your own money, you're allowed to decide which little dot will steal half of what you earn. So that really means that you're in charge and that you're agreeing to give us your money. In fact, we, the dot, are serving you when we take your money and spend it on things you don't like. And so you should thank us and treat us with great respect and honor for having robbed you on your behalf for your own good in order to serve you by doing things you don't want us to do. So there you have it. I hope that cleared everything up for you.
If you're not entirely satisfied with the dot's explanation of things, you really should read the book The Most Dangerous Superstition, available now at Amazon.com.
Welcome back to Counterspin. That was Larkin Rose's The Tiny Dot, and is a perfect representation of what humanity has faced for decades, centuries, whatever. It's almost like the CCP as well. You've got a little small group of family-controlled businesses, party, whatever. And as you heard Tex once say before, it's only a party in name. It's basically an international criminal organization that's well and truly embedded here. You saw that clip as well, as you see how you have, again, the legal system does exactly the same thing. You have a select few people, they've got this codified crap that we can't understand, okay, and we should not understand. In fact, it's so convoluted, so complex that even one lawyer can't understand it all, can't comprehend it all. There is lawyers for every single discipline, like you said, your property law, estate law, you got criminal law, you got just all manner of different laws. So I remember when we were speaking once, and I think I said to you, you know what, to hell with this. I'm no longer even going to worry about fighting these cretins. I'm just going to simply bypass them. And we'll just create our own society, which we did. And we will tell people exactly how that's done shortly. But let's... We put up on a whiteboard just a little representation of, just to give people an example of the difference between, as we were saying, the common law and Admiralty, Kalarov, all the usual suspects that go along with it, and the thing that divides us. Because it's like we're over here, and there's a mirror world over there in the legal profession, and they've tricked us somehow along the way of hooking us into that. Because people have lost the ability to say, hang on a minute, I'm real. You're not. First in time is best in law. Man came first, then the construct that was everything else, government, legal profession, and all that sort of stuff. So if we bring that up, if you can just have a little run through there, and once we explain the differences in the various laws, what we'll do is we'll then show people how we did it, the steps to take, so every single one of them can do exactly the same thing. Because at the end of the show, I'm going to also announce something else, which will be quite cool. So let's, I will just leave you to give everyone a quick, short, concise, non-brainwashing or debilitating explanation of the difference between the two.
Well, my old law school professors are going to be rather surprised. Because I would say, looking at that chart, you can see there's two sides to it. One is maritime, admiralty law, law of the sea, imperial law, and what is written in legalese. On the other side, we have the common law, land law, law of the land, natural law. These are, and allodial title comes under there as well. All of these are basically have been around forever. Natural law is the most descriptive part of that. Okay?
It goes back to like biblical times?
It does. It's based on the Ten Commandments.
Right.
So I would say in our new society, we should forget all about the other side. We don't need any of that because in New Zealand, it's based on that particular part of maritime law, which is called imperial law.
Right.
To form an empire, the British had to sail across the sea, okay? And so they used maritime law because it was an invasion.
Right.
Except it wasn't, and we'll get to that when we talk about how we actually throw off what's called the feudal yoke, because that's what we are under a fee simple title.
Correct.
Moving to a allodial title. But say in our new society, we just worked in land law, contract law, criminal law, tort law. Equity I've got real concerns about because it is coming out of the Vatican originally. It was called canon law.
Yeah.
As we know, the Vatican has an agenda, and we probably do not need it. So in our new society, the law system, I won't call it legal anymore, the law system will be trimmed right down.
Correct.
We will not be using high courts at all, probably, except for criminal matters. But most criminal matters, if you strip things away, can be you can find the truth of them in any decent court that has where you're judged by by your peers, by a jury. Okay, and the judge is only there to make sure that the rules are kept.
Yeah.
They are not there to judge you. They are there to carry out the judgment, really, of the people who are on the jury.
Before we carry on, do you find that a lot of courts are rigged? Because the right to trial by jury, by your peers, has been eviscerated. Very rarely can you actually get that now, except in high-profile cases.
I mean, so much time is taken up with all of this other side, this maritime law, etc. There's delays, there's there's appeals, there's on and on and on and on and on, wasting time. And of course, who does it cost money? It costs the victim or the plaintiff money, and in actual fact, that's where lawyers make their money, in dragging things out.
And they do. They drag them out until you break. I've seen property settlements go by the wayside where the lawyers become very rich and the people end up
just
nothing.
give up.
They should just go to each other and say, look, I hate you, you hate me, but we've got this house. If you want to lose most of it to lawyers, then we'll argue, but if not, let's just half it and do this.
Yeah.
You keep the cat, because you can't really half that.
Yeah.
That would be criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, people can obviously get a link to this, and they can have a look at it. But we're dealing with allodial title. We're dealing solely in the common law, and I can tell you as we get on and talk about New Freeland, which is the land that was formerly Abel Tasman National Park.
Correct, that we now have.
Have allodial title on. Why we can dispense with all of these things, because we discovered in the process, of course, through the cases and through the facts of what happened with New Zealand coming under British jurisdiction under Victoria, how it was a legal fiction that it all happened. And we can prove it by looking at Tiaro. It's in the documents that have been published.
Exactly.
And,
I think I have them here.
A lot of
and because a lot of people say, who the hell are you guys to go and take land that's not yours? I mean, which is an oxymoron when you think about it, because everyone took land that they never formally had anyway, you know. And what are the there are certain processes by which land can be gained, is there not? There's land by conquest.
Yes.
War and conquest. Land by gifting.
Yes.
Land by discovery.
Yes.
Any others?
Marriage.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Discover. Yeah, it would be conquest, discovery, marriage, gift.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
We of course,
Discovery, did we say that?
yeah.
Yeah.
We, of course, created New Freeland from Discovery. Now, this is where you're going to get the arguments, because I notice you've had a few backwards and forwards with people on the threads. If people go to the New Freeland official Facebook page, go to the bottom and you'll see the establishment of New Freeland. It will give you the case law that I'm about to cite now to back it up. And then you read up to the universal law reason and go up to touch the nerve. The touch the nerve one was my way of basically holding up a mirror to these people who believe we have no right to do this. According to them, they're the only source of authority, but they must be watching Jacinda, the only source of truth, whatever. And I notice it's always only a select subgroup of people. Always. Like they've got carte blanche. I mean, like God created the land for them and only them. And that to me is nonsensical. It's stupid, to be honest. So the cases that, of course, we've mentioned is Johnson versus McIntosh. That's 1823. We got Amodi Tijani versus the Secretary of Southern Nigeria, 1921. People, look these up. These are facts. Mabo versus Queensland, 2003. And, of course, one here in New Zealand as well, what we can throw out there, Ngāti Apa versus the Attorney General, 2004. But there's just 4 of the things that explain exactly what we did, how we did it. Now, what do you say to people who say, but hang on a minute, it's got dock workers on there. What do you say to them?
Dock workers are there doing their job. At the moment, we've given them a waiver.
We did.
Because we can, in a way, if you were a tenant of somebody who they own the land that your house is sitting on, that you're renting, okay, they're giving a waiver of their right of occupation.
Correct.
In exchange for your rent.
Yep.
Okay.
And we haven't even charged them.
Big pardon? Oh, we haven't. No, we haven't
No,
charged the
we are very good.
Department of Conservation,
That's
even
right.
though they're making money out of tourists. Of
That's
course.
right.
Yeah.
But we gave them a waiver. We thought,
Yeah.
you know,
Not so much now with COVID, eh?
No, that's right. There's actually
Yeah.
there's no COVID in New Freeland, by the way. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got about 2 minutes left in this segment because I want to get to the nuts and bolts, and I want to tell people out there, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a farmer, if you're working in the agriculture, if you're working in orchards, if you're a truck driver, if you're a nurse, doctor, if you're a pesky lawyer, if you're dare so I say, even those damn politicians,
Yes,
this will help everyone.
it will.
So we want to tell people exactly how to go and get their piece of land now. No one needs to
Well,
be landless.
homelessness will be a thing of the past.
Homelessness, exactly, thing of the past.
Because, of course, there are many houses empty in this country. I would say don't go after the private ones first. Go
That's right.
after the Housing New Zealand houses.
Yeah.
Go after the houses that are have been built and left by absentee landlords in
Yeah.
China, perhaps. You know, all of those guys over there.
Exactly, because they basically buy land and they've
Yeah.
abandoned them.
Yeah, they have abandoned it.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So now, just quickly, because I think we've got about 1 minute left. The New Freeland land. Now, Te Rāpara, I think, from the Waikato, went swept down on a genocidal.
Oh, don't call him Waikato, sorry.
What is it?
He's from the Wairarapa, I think.
Yeah, but I
it
think
was.
he came from the
Yeah.
Waikato down, or the chiefs from the,
yeah, well,
some
they
from the
will-
Waikato
yeah,
joined them.
Yeah, joined
Went down on a genocidal rampage, killing everyone on the way down, across to the South Island, decimated those people left. He then came back, and I think it was 7 or 9 of them together sold
Yeah.
the land to the New Zealand company. So all that land was sold to the New Zealand company. From that point on, different things happened, legal skullduggery and trickery, but then it was converted into a national park, whereby at that point legally abandoning the land.
Correct, because it's not inhabited and it's not cultivated.
So they've got a permanent inhabitants cultivated for sustenance for a people,
That's correct.
as is people's human right.
As is, if you want to see it. Have we got time to tell people about what's in the schedules of the Settlements Act?
As soon as we come back, we'll definitely go straight into
Okay.
that Settlements Act, because that's very important. That's something that's going to rock a few things. But in the meantime, of course, just to annoy people, because I love this song, I just love it, because I'm all about taking down the CCP, because I
Oh, good.
realise they're a dangerous criminal sect, and they've imposed their will on the New Zealand government. They're in debt. They're just like lapdogs.
Take those houses that are over at Glendowie for a start.
Oh, absolutely.
Those CCP members who have built those are going to get onto their people straight away.
Exactly. So on behalf of myself and my Takedown G Fashion CCP hat, take down the CCP hat. Here's take down the CCP. Enjoy.
他们的恐惧是我们的武器，我们的胜利。谢谢了，兄弟姐妹们，你们健身了吗？行动，行动，行动！中共，你完了 ！Take down the CCP！
beginning for the games you want to play. Bring it on and I will fight to the end. Just watch and see. It's all started, everything's begun, and you are over. 'Cause we're taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long. We will end what they do wrong. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. Let's take down the CCP. Let the bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Let the bullets fly a little longer.
中共，
Let the bullets fly a little
你
longer.
完了！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
中共，你完了！干灭中国共产党这个 CCP， 才能让我们远离恐惧。Take down CCP。
They try to scare the nation with fabrication, but we see through the lies. We won't fall, we will fight you back. Police corruption with crooked assumption. They ran our lives, but no more. We will win. We will take down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long. We will end what they do wrong. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. Let's take down the CCP. Let the bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Let the bullets fly a little longer.
站起来吧！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
站起来吧！
Let the bullets fly a little
为
longer.
奴役的人
Let
们
the bullets fly a little longer.
行动！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
行动！
Let the bullets fly a little
你
longer.
完了
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
！Take down CCP。
Bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
Take down the evil CCP.
Welcome back to Counterspin. This is getting exciting. Even I'm excited that I didn't even say that word properly. That's how excited I am. Now, as we were pointing out before, we're not here to give you a long, convoluted conversation about the difference between legal, lawful, and all that. We just want to get to the nuts and bolts. We want to tell you what your rights are with allodial title, because this is all about the land grab that we are going to now avoid, all about the water rates and all that sort of stuff. And first of all, Liz, how did we go from humans to be able to go out, find our plot of land, build a home, cultivate, sustain ourselves, and live free, to having an overlord through a fee simple title?
Okay. Well, we've got to go back to the first king of the Israelites, who was Saul.
Yeah.
Saul. Now, he was given the divine right of kings because he was blessed by God to become king of the Israelites through, I think it was Samuel was the prophet at the time. You can read that in the Bible, and that has been the basis of the divine right of kings, which gives you, as king or queen, gives you the right to make law, to say all of the people in this piece of land that I have conquest over, are my subjects.
So that was the head honcho. There was nothing higher.
Yeah. Except God, of course.
Yeah.
And God anoints the king or queen or whatever, and that is how fee simple can then, which is part of what's called a feudal system, be implemented.
Yeah.
Now, you might ask, how can you say we're in a feudal system in New Zealand? I can say that because that's what fee simple is. It is a feudal system title.
Yeah.
Okay? It says fee simple, but it's actually fee complex.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's so damn complex, no one understands it.
Yeah, compared to what we've got with the allodial title, which is really, really
Simple.
easy, which is based on our occupation and use of the land.
Correct.
Fee simple has all of these things under it. Now, if you look at the whiteboard there, the basic use of fee simple is to use people for profit, right? It has.
This is where they rate them to death and all that.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah. And in the old days, it used to be a lot more. You could see it a lot more easily because they take part of the crop.
Yeah.
Also, the fee simple is. It used to have a lot more duties under it to the lord of the manor, like giving the first, the bride first to the landlord, etc.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, but they don't
Prima
have.
nocta.
Yeah, they don't have any of that anymore here. But they do have fee simple means that how men can be conscripted for war, actually, because the fee simple meant that the peasants or the serfs,
Which is us.
well,
they assume it's us.
SERF, had a duty if the king wanted to go to war to go to war with their lord.
Yeah.
Okay, the king would sometimes lead the army, etc., etc. Now, the fee simple in New Zealand is held by Queen Elizabeth II, or so she says, right?
Yeah.
Now it's got.
We know it's a corporation called Her Majesty the Queen and the Right.
Except, that's interesting because when we first notified the Governor General that we'd taken the land that used to be the national park under allodial title, we also pointed out to her that they have exposed themselves as a corporation. In that now
100%.
People know about the Queen and Right of New Zealand, which is floated on the securities market. It's a company.
Correct.
But we also have in New Zealand since 1953, we've had an act of Parliament which was called something like the Crown Lands Act, which allows all of our land to be mortgaged. So what they had done and what they were planning to do, but we've nipped it in the bud because we've exposed it, was they intended to build up the debt of New Zealand so high that our debtors, which are they? We have to pay them money anyway.
Yeah, we're the debtors.
We're the debtors, yeah. That our creditors could come in and take it And people have said to me, "Oh no, the land can't be taken; it's always there." But they can take control of the land.
Control it through,
And they
through
can,
the titles.
They can chuck you off it. Now, if any farmer knows this,
Yep.
that if he doesn't,
They're losing up to 90% of their land.
Yeah.
And they feel they can do nothing about it.
yeah.
But they can do something about it.
Oh,
can they not?
absolutely. Yeah, we'll get on to that.
Yes.
Okay. So QE2 was the landlord. The actual legal way it was done was it was from what was called a Crown grant. Now, that stopped at about 1850 or 60 because all of the land had been surveyed by then. Maori, in what they call unextinguished native title, hold allodial land.
As of natural.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they were living on it and using it,
Yep.
and it was deemed
At
to
the
be.
time that agreement was done
and-
up north.
And at the time of the treaty. So, and I have documents that show both a Crown grant and land which was recognised as allodial, and you can compare them side by side. And the one that is allodial or native title does not come under a Crown grant. Okay, so that's definitely how they come into being.
Yes.
You pay rates, you pay fees, you pay, you get permissions to do whatever you want to do on your land, how you want to build the house.
That's when if you want to have to cut down a tree,
Yeah,
they say
all
you
of
have
that.
you have to apply for a permit.
Yeah.
Then you have to
Yeah.
get an arborist to come, to come in to do it for you. And all
The
that sort of
Resource
rubbish.
Management Act is all under this bullshit.
Fee simple. I love how you
Fee
can say
simple
bullshit.
title. Sorry.
No, that's
language.
awesome. See, because that's real. That's
Well-
real. That's lawyer talk.
Yeah, it is. The RMA does not apply. There's limited use of space above and below land. Now, so you can
no riparian rights?
You can reserve your airspace, which we have done above New
Yep,
Freeland.
correct.
So there should not be an overfly.
And none of those
anybody
idiots trying to drop that 1080
dropping
poison
1080,
crap because we
exactly.
do them under the chemical weapons, or we'll just take them out the sky.
Yeah, and of course there's the Coal Mines Act, which stops you exploiting any coal under your land.
Because they want it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the gold, if you have gold under your land that you've
They'll say
taken
it's
as
crown.
allodial, that's yours now.
Yep, exactly.
That's yours now.
Allodial gives you everything.
So, there's some farmers who might have some crap land, but they should go gold prospecting
Okay.
as well.
At this point, I want to address something that's probably in the minds of people watching this right now, because it would be me. You said, and quite rightfully so, that Māori at the time in their territories had allodial title through basically usage and all that. So that's without a doubt. Why they have to keep going to the government to say, please, can you recognise us instead of just living that way and putting the government on notice is beyond me. But I think that's the elitist
Yeah, they
thing,
keep paying rates on some of this land.
which is ridiculous because they shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
What about... So, what do you say to those Māoris who tell us that we got no right to any of the land because the Māori had everything?
Oh, okay. Now this is they've got this legal, and I say legal, not lawful, legal BS that in
You can say
in 1986 there were 3 regents appointed, and it was all a way to basically hand them back the whole of New Zealand, which they believe they had the right to the whole of New Zealand when in 1840. They didn't understand anything about allodial title, obviously.
Yeah.
The British did, and so, of course, the lands that were reserved for Maori reflected what they were using
At
or
the time.
needed to use.
Yep.
And
Yep.
at the time, and there was only a small part of New Zealand that actually
That's
applied to. Ngāi Tahu, how they got to be the second biggest landowner in New Zealand
Through
after the
skullduggery
Crown
and trickery.
is absolute
It's a farce.
magic.
It's,
Is absolute
exactly.
magic.
It's a farce.
And, when people work it all out, it's just going to be,
They'll be
people-
hanging them from the nearest lampposts.
well, something like that. But even Maori are in danger of losing all of that now. Even the land that they had actually been entitled to, as of right as have been traditionally living on, etc., or just living on.
Yep.
Never mind traditional.
Yep.
Okay, because Ngāi Tahu is trying very hard to push the tribe into corporate holdings under the Te Ture Whenua Act.
But Ngāi Tahu is an iwi.
Yeah,
It's
well,
never
that's,
been mentioned.
that's a fantasy as well,
Yep,
isn't
it's
it?
all iwis are fantasies. Because it was always chiefs and heads of hapu. It was nothing to do with iwis at all.
Yeah.
Everyone had their own territories, which was their country, pretty much, and their exclusive allodial title. Like I said before, I have no issue with the Māori who were denied access to the land and resources in order to grow. No problem at all. That stuff should be compensated for. Not out of our damn pockets, though. The ones who created it.
Well, the Crown.
The Crown, exactly. Not out of our... And, of course, the Crown's trying to tax us to death when it's got nothing to do with us at all. So they also try to then say, oh, in that case, if this is ours, we're Māori, we're one people. They've never been one people. They've all been... it's all been inter-tribal warfare. In fact, I don't even know where this Māori thing come from. They're all different names and all that, but we can do that another time. But, so yes, they have absolute allodial title and rights, as do we. So where there's land not taken, it's abandoned, or it's a national park. There's about 7 or 9 national parks in the country. You can all have a piece of that shortly. And conservation land. The government sort of land banks, basically, and then they decide if there's anything valuable we find, we can sell it off.
And all land with council buildings on, for example. The beehive.
Beehive's claimable.
The beehive is claimable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just
Although
go plant
who
a tree.
would want to live there?
Well, it's like an asylum, isn't it?
But you really need
Mental patients.
Yeah, what you really need is a little bit of land because there's a symbolic part to it because it's because we're going back right to.
Oh, then you can wave to us from
Yeah.
New Freeland. You stand up on the beehive. We'll be
No
down there.
thanks. Yeah.
Now, under law of discovery, okay, what about farmers who are already on their land and those who have mortgages and all that sort of stuff? How do they differentiate between the two? How do they pull them apart?
Right, because you might have seen that mortgages was over on the maritime
Correct.
law or admiralty law side. Okay,
Is that like fraud, right? It's
it's-
all a fraud creation.
it is a fraud, and of course people also understand now that when you write your loan documents, it's actually your signature that creates the loan on the books of the bank.
Correct, a promise to pay.
So you actually create the funds
that you then use.
that you use, and they get the interest off it.
Correct.
Right, so they're taking interest in it, and that's the banker trick. Okay, so there are a couple of for a start, they should claim allodial, which we're going to show them how to do in the next segment.
Yep.
But they can, in terms of their mortgages, there is a thing in every loan document where you give what's called you give power of attorney to the bank.
Correct.
Now, the bank then passes it on to whomever they want to. That applies to all of their people, and to your lawyer, and to the bank's lawyer if they want to use your lawyer against you, they'll use your powers of attorney. Now it's called what do they call it? You can't rescind it or anything. That is rubbish.
An irrevocable power of attorney.
Irrevocable, that's the word. Thank you. Yeah. Irrevocable power of attorney. Now, in actual
We've
fact...
got about 1 minute left before we get to the real nuts and bolts and devastate this government and their house of cards.
Right. Well, let's quickly go back to Maori then for that 1 minute, and I'll talk about the mortgages in the next one.
Okay.
In 1649...
Yes.
The English people and those of Ireland, those were the two places that the war was fought on. The English parliamentary army won the war against
the Kings.
Charles I.
Yep.
Charles I was beheaded in January of 1849.
After he was tried for treason?
1649.
1649,
yeah.
1649, remember that.
That afternoon, they made a law that said no more kings were to be named, and it was a treason, and you were charged with treason if you did so.
British History Online, hidden in plain sight.
Okay.
I'll just read it out for them quickly. Act prohibiting the proclaiming of any person to be King of England or Ireland or the dominions thereof. It's all cited, it's all there. What's the ramifications for that?
Basically, every king, Charles II onwards, has been a fraud.
Been a fraud.
They've been a traitor to the people of England for a start. So all of this stuff about the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Waitangi, which was signed by the Queen signed by Hobson on the Queen's behalf, are all fraudulent documents.
Yes, they are.
The Waitangi Tribunal, set up to hear all of this, is a fraudulent organisation.
Can't get any more clearer than that. And of course, people will be up in arms saying, what? Because all of a sudden they've lost legitimacy. They've lost the gravy train. What are they going to do? Every average Māori, they're fine. They carry on business as usual because they don't get anything anyway. But the elitists aren't going to be happy with you, Liz. Have you got life insurance? Can I be part of it? That'd be great. So, right, when we come back, we're going to show you the farmers, anyone who's homeless, anyone who has a mortgage, a property that you are bleeding through the teeth paying these frauds. We're going to tell you exactly how to kick them to the curb. Back shortly.
Righto, kick it in the guts, Trev. Gumboots, they are wonderful, gumboots, they are swell, 'cause they keep out the water and they keep in the smell. And when you're sitting round at home, you can always tell when one of the Trevs has taken off his gumboots. If it weren't for your gumboots, where would you be? You'd be in the hospital or infirmary, 'cause you would have a dose of the flu or even pleurisy if you didn't have your feet in your gumboots. Now there's rugby boots and racing boots and boots for drinking rum, but the only boots I'm never without are the ones that start with gum. I've got short ones and long ones and some up to me belt. I'm never dressed till I've got on me gum boots. If it weren't for your gum boots, where would you be? You'd be in the hospital or infirmary, 'cause you would have a dose of the flu or even pleurisy if you didn't have your feet in your gum boots. I sing at the opera, my gumboots are a must. They help me hit the high notes and protect my feet from a dust. They keep the water well away, so my voice won't get no rust. You won't not never see me without me gumboots. If it weren't for your gumboots, where would you be? You'd be in the hospital or infirmary, 'cause you would have a dose of the flu or even pleurisy if you didn't have your feet in your gumboots. Da-da-da-dum. Now Rob Muldoon and Rolling, they haven't made a hit. They're ruining the country more than just a bit. If they keep on the way they're going, we'll all be interred. So you'd better get your feet up your gumboots. If it weren't for your gumboots, where would you be? You'd be in the hospital or infirmary, 'cause you would have a dose of the flu or even pleurisy if you didn't have your feet in your gumboots. If it weren't for your gumboots, where would you be? You'd be in the hospital or infirmary, 'cause you would have a dose of the flu or even pleurisy if you didn't have your feet in your gumboots.
You're back with Counterspin. This is coming up to the end of the show. This is the part, don't tune out. Grab yourself a coffee, get some adrenaline, because this is going to be wild. That was John Clark, Fred Dagg. As Kiwi as anything, just like Billy T. James.
Yeah.
Liz, what do you have to say about old Fred?
Oh, he was, both Billy and Fred, in their personas, were political commentators who knew there was something stinking in the state of Denmark, yeah?
Yep,
but they didn't actually know that it was a stinking, fraudulent, so-called sovereign who was holding us under the feudal yoke.
Yeah.
That we should have been out from long ago.
Yeah, the thing that really gets my goat is you have a lot of people talking about biblical stuff and God this, and no matter whether you're on a marae, whether you go to a church or whether you go anywhere, they always give honour to God first. Then they violate every damn thing that they're supposed to honour all the way through the rest of the damn day.
Yes, they do.
Just like if the created can never be greater than its creator. Therefore, we can never be greater than our creator, whether it be God or whether it be primordial soup called science or whatever. It doesn't matter. But we got here first. The land was created for us. So we have human agency over the land.
We do.
After that, we assembled into societies. We created governments, all creatures of our mind, structures of our mind and our making. And we have allowed these little creations to run rampant because other humans have decided they are more elevated than we are and can take what they like and make us pay for it. Whether it's Maori or Europeans, the world over, it doesn't matter. The same thing happens. What I say to them is, hang on a minute. You get God to come to me and tell me that you own everything. Then I'll believe you. Until then, it's just in your damn head. Just like the government and their fraud is in our heads.
Yeah.
And as you saw with the little dot, how easy it is to manipulate and control people. And when they constantly send a barrage of crap down the TV to people who sit at home and they soak it up like sponges.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a guy called Bob out there. I'm thinking SpongeBob. But anyway.
Okay.
So what I want to get to now is I want to tell people right here, right now, how they can kick the government to the curb, stop paying rates, make sure that your home is in fact your castle, and all lawfully. So no matter what happens, the people can finally push back. Because what's happening now is, like I said, the farming community is getting eviscerated. They are the ones that have always had our backs. They have got us through every depression, every financial thing we have. All our recovery has been on the back of them. And then, of course, your truck drivers who take the produce, and your doctors, nurses who keep you healthy, and the road workers, all the people who built this country are now all like slaves getting kicked in the guts, working their guts out just so they can afford to be broke to pay the crap that these people are trying to rip us off with. How the hell do we do that? I mean, we've done it, but I want to do it for everyone.
Well, in terms of land, we'll talk about today.
Yes.
In terms of tax, we'll talk about another day.
Yes.
Right, but the land tax, of course, is the rates, right? Now, the first thing, once you've declared a allodial title, it's a very, very simple process, right? So you're the farmer on the land, and I come to you and say, okay, you want to declare a allodial title. Have you got a stick? Yes. Have you got a piece of fabric? Yes. Right. Now, what's something that you'd like to put on that piece of fabric that you could copyright if you wanted?
To be uniquely identified
to you. You could put your signature on if you wanted.
Correct.
Yeah, you could do that. Right. Now, take that flag out, take your spade, turn the first sod, stick your flag in the ground, take a photograph of it, and put that out on public notice. Now you can describe what you've done. You describe the title on your land because you know what. You know
your boundaries. You can get the legal description, so you can claim that. Yep, under allodial title.
You don't claim that legal description. You just
that's right.
Just a description.
Exactly.
Okay? So you put the legal description down. You say, I have this is the evidence that I have made this. I'm declaring this land allodial.
Correct.
And you plant something. Of
That's
course,
right.
Because
to show future intended use.
The land is there to sustain you.
Farmers are much easier because they're already doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's right. And you might say, but I've got a vineyard and I just can't eat grapes. You know, there's more to it than that. But what you're doing is you're selling the produce on that land,
which sustains you.
Yeah. So I mean, even people who are using land and they're like they might have a home office there. Okay.
Yep.
The money that you get from selling your labour sustains you, but you need that roof over your head. So every person in this country can declare their own place allodial. Okay, the land it stands
What
on.
about if they're renting?
If they're renting,
They could still go and claim land
yeah,
and come back
Oh yeah, yeah.
and continue renting
yeah,
if they wish.
Yeah, they can.
Yep.
Yeah, they can do that. They can pass this message on to their landlord,
Yep.
and for the goodness, out of the goodness of their heart, their landlord should reduce their rent, because their landlord is not going to be paying any rates then.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, once you've got it, once you've done your little ceremony, you've put in your piece of crop or whatever,
Your crop, your flag.
your crop, your flag,
Got
your
the description.
then you send that off to your local council and say, I'm now allodial, I won't be paying rates anymore.
It's all
and
over.
stop your automatic payment or whatever.
That's right. So you can reclaim. So those farmers out there who believe that they are losing land left, right, and centre, do exactly that. Get a stick, put a piece of material on it, colour it whichever way you like. That's going to be a representation of you and your land. Plant something, or if you're already working it with cattle, you have allodial title. Get the description of your land, send it into council, say you've claimed allodial title, they are no longer welcome. All those people who believe they have lost the land under the Resource Management Act, you've had it taken off you, significant land blocks, it's all back to being in your hands. Reclaim it, and that's how it's done, because the case law backs it. The law backs it. This country is going to now be like a human tsunami, going straight back across the land and pushing those fraudulent straight back out to see where they belong, because that's where the system comes from.
Yeah, and if people want to see it actually described, in 2003, just look at one.
I think I have that here, Liz.
Settlement Claim Act. Yeah,
Yep.
okay,
Ruanui
Ruanui.
Settlement Claims
Yeah.
Act 2003.
that's correct. Now, it's good. Don't worry about the rest of the act, okay?
Yeah.
Just go to the schedules, and you will see there's described in the schedules there's some
Schedule 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
3 and 4, I believe it is.
And they have the map reference on there for them. And they are land that Maori have gone to the Waitangi Tribunal and described what their claim
Schedule
is
3 and 4 for
and
sure.
what the basis of their claim is,
That's right.
which was to do with an ancestor called Turi who came down from Kawhia, and he went up the Whenua River, I think it was, or it could have been the Pātea River. That claim covers a lot of that. And there were people there, but they were friendly and they had good land there that they could grow things on. And they said prayers. They possibly put up pole, which is those poles, etc.
Totem pole type thing?
Yeah. But it doesn't say that. And in that act, in the schedules, are the acknowledgements by the Crown that they accept that. And that land now belongs to Maori
Exactly.
under native title.
And just so people don't get confused here, native title, allodial title, exactly the same thing. There is no difference between the two. Native title doesn't give you any more rights over anyone else than allodial title does. It's your inhabitants of the land and your usage thereof. Human agency. Man and land, we have a symbiotic relationship. There's an inextricable link. What these cretins have tried to do is dispossess you through wordplay, through a document. That's not how it works. Isn't that right, Liz?
Yeah, but people will be worried about their mortgages now. Now you might,
Yeah, tell them about that. That'll help that.
You might remember that mortgages sat on the maritime law side.
That's
okay?
right.
Admiralty law. Okay, now they're a piece of paper, right? They have a description on them that's very useful, and what we will do when we change over from fee simple to allodial, we'll have a patent system as they do in the United States, because there's quite a lot of allodial land in the United States.
Yeah.
Right. Now, also we know that that the money we paid over to the bank in interest and repayments.
This is for mortgages?
Yeah. We earned that off the sweat of our brow.
Correct.
Okay, that was real stuff.
That's right.
But the actual loan that they gave us, the figures on the bank on our balance sheet, was what we created ourselves as well.
Exactly.
So
Without promise to pay, which they don't do in Ecuador. There is no there is no double signature. There's not a signature of us and them on a form.
But also on your loan documents, if you look, you'll see there's a power of attorney, and so-called irrevocable power of attorney.
Yeah.
I bought the Crayfer farms, and I have actually still a allodial title on those pieces of land because I paid the Crayfers for the occupation rights.
Yeah.
Okay. So that made them allodial because that's what I was always saying to the courts. I'm hanging on to the
That's right.
occupation
So
rights.
whereas the mortgagee, the pieces of paper, they can have claim over those pieces of paper, but never over the land.
No.
They can trade that piece of paper and they
Yeah.
can say, we own that for this. Well, that's fine. You can go and live on your piece of paper
Yeah.
because the land's mine. I have usage of it.
Yeah.
And that's the key there. A lot of people believe, I mean, that you've got other people who will say, oh, but hang on, I got a mortgage in good faith and I really want to pay it.
Well, that's up to them.
Well, then pay it.
Yeah, go
That's
for it.
good.
But
It's
if-
not going
but
to
if you
do
can't-
either as far as the allodial title goes.
You don't have to because all you need to do is take away the power of attorney. Now, if you take away the power of attorney, they cannot transfer the land to another person.
That's right.
Okay, so they will be acting under false pretenses if they try and market that title. Now, what they did with Peng Shing was they continued to market the title even after they knew that I had bought the usage rights of to the farms of Alan Crayfer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean those Crayfer farms still belong to me. They're being managed by the Crown at the moment, but of course
No, we just get move
they
back
do
up.
belong to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that will be something that people probably will want to. It's no use going to a lawyer and asking.
No, you guys bad. You guys are bad news. I mean, you
Because-
guys have sucked us in for years. We've got to
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
you pricks out. Anyway, that's awesome. So what we're going to do, we're running out of time at the moment because I'd like to talk about this all day.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is recommend everyone goes to the Facebook page. If you have Facebook, go to the New Zealand Freeland Official. Read what's on there, including the argumentative responses by some people who believe they have carte blanche to everything, like they're somehow the
God's chosen.
like God's chosen, which we all are. So, and the land is yours. So farmers, don't fret. We're here. We will help. And anyone and around farmers, it's their land. Help them out. Stand with them. You have a right to defend your land by any means necessary. When a government tells you to give up your means of defence, they're coming for you. That's the indication to buy a hell of a lot more. So go to New Zealand, to New Freeland Official Facebook page. Read from the bottom to the top. It explains everything. We will also get all these notes out for you on our website that's coming up shortly. Counterspinmedia.com will be live shortly. If you want to get hold of us, info at Counterspin Media. We also have for you leftist, Marxist, Looney Tunes. We have hate mail at counterspin.com. We actually do. So you can send it all to us. I'll even go through it personally myself and listen to your rambling and ravings. But see, I've just given you the opportunity to have your own land for your family. You should be grateful. And you know what? Not even done in a communist way. So there you go. Now, I must declare that from this point on, Counterspin will now be Counterspin Central Command. This is going to be the hub for the greatest tsunami of people and the pushback to reclaim our nation, starting with the farmers and the agricultural sector, the orchardists, and the people that feed us when times are tough. But they are not going to disappear, and we are not going to be serfs pushed in like cattle to the bloody cities where we have to kowtow to dictates. Not going to happen. Jacinda, you're on notice. We're coming for you. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in the next show.